having Kwame Nkrumah serving as a president for a very long time. Just as at a point we were equally tired of having the ex-president Nana Addo Dankwa serving as a president for 8 years. They are haters of Nkrumah. They don't like Nkrumah because they were sabotaged by the CPP government. You see, the truth is that if you can't fight them, join them. If MPP is saying that it will be a waste of money, let the government bring out a budget. How much it will cost us to change the name of the Kotoka International Airport to a different name, and then let's compare it to the biggest manhole in the Accra Central, which they dubbed the National Cathedral.
Nkrumah is a great Africanist. He was well known to be the brainchild of trying to unite Africa. He was a hero for Africa, but internally, Nkrumah wasn't doing great. Look, until the early 2000s, that the BBC had come to make some research and trying to make Nkrumah the millennium of the town. That's his downs and he has his ups. We can't take it away. But until recently, people are trying to make it look as if Nkrumah is totally 100% clean, which is never true. Look, let's go to the north. Today, we haven't, between the Kusans and the Mampusis, there's a huge conflict for close to 30 years at the northern sector, which is the Boku sector. Do you know how this conflict began? It was all about Nkrumah. Nkrumah destroyed the then Boku chief, who was then a pro-UP person.
Welcome to another episode of the Neutral Grounds Talk Show, the only trusted talk show where we dive deep into every subject that shapes the society. Each episode is thoughtfully explored and every voice is heard. Whether we are unpacking current affairs or delving into cultural shift, our goal is to inform, challenge, and entertain listeners across spectrum of interest. I am Richmond, Dadah, your host, and today we are tackling a hot topic that has sparked passionate discussions across Ghana and beyond. Should the Kotoka International Airport change its name? With me in the studio are two brilliant guests. My first guest is Mr. BENSON DUMOGA, who is currently the Executive Secretary to the President of the National Union of Ghana Students. He is also the current Chief of Staff for the Ghana Union Professional Students and the communicator of the National Democratic Congress political party. My second guest is Mr. ABDUL-LATIF Ramadan, who is a political activist and was the Deputy Majority Leader, UPSA Students Parliament, and he's representing the New Patriotic Party at this hour. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, for those new to the debate, let's set the scene. Kotoka International Airport, which is located in Accra, Ghana, is the country's largest and busiest airport. It was originally built during World War II by the British as a military airstrip and then later expanded for civilian use. In 1969, viewers should bear with me, I should give a little bit background so that we are kept up to speed on what we are discussing. In 1969, it was renamed after Lieutenant General Emmanuel Kwesi Kotoka, a key figure in the 1966-67 coup that overthrew Ghana's first president, Kwame Nkrumah. Join me and my guests so we explore both sides of this issue. Now, Benson, I will start with you. I know you support the motion. Why do you believe the name should be changed? Some people believe the name should be changed as well.
Yes, so thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. I'm very happy to be on your show and also extend my regards to or my greetings to your viewers and then your listeners. Yeah, so I believe the motion. I support the motion that the name should be changed because when you look at Kotoka International Airport, the moment you hear Kotoka International Airport, or you hear the name Kotoka, it means a shed of blood. It means anarchy. It means chaos. It means violence. So, and now that we are in a democratic regime, I don't think using a name that once caused violence in the country for our monument. Because, when you look at our constitution, the constitution is always talking about peace. And Kotoka never brought peace to the country. All he brought was violence and then anarchy. He brought people crying. People lost their fathers. People lost their mothers. People lost their children.
Now, Benson, from what you are saying that changing the name is about reflecting shared values and fostering unity, because Kotoka and his counterparts, they brought chaos into the system.
Chaos, exactly.
But it was also said that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah at a certain point was exhibiting some form of autocratic leadership. So that which Kotoka did was justified or had a legitimate reason. What's your take on that?
Kotoka brought an end to the First Republic, and Kwame Nkrumah,
and that is why Kwame Nkrumah had a lot of enemies.
Fine, Kwame Nkrumah may have a lot of enemies, but these same enemies were his ministers. These same enemies were working under him as MPs. And you see, the reason why some people may twist the thing in such a way to favor Kotoka is because you see, when you look at the 1960 Constitution, okay, the 1960 Constitution gives the president the mandate, all right, to appoint and then sack any other, MP. So the president can say, I want this person to be a member of parliament. And it got to a time, the minority in parliament were very few, and then we had a CPP running the parliament. So
because at that time, you see, let me come in and let's help each other. At that time, Nkrumah was winning the election. That means he was popular. You get what I mean? So how come, if it's only because he was autocratic, or maybe he was making certain decisions? Because at that time, the Ghanaian people loved him. See, currently, if somebody is trying to overthrow John Mahama, the person will not take it easily, because Ghanaians, everybody is supporting him. But at that time, we also heard that when he was overthrown, some Ghanaians were rejoicing.
Yes, so the reason was that it was like Ghanaians were tired of having Kotoka serving as a president for a very long time.
No, Kwame Nkrumah.
Having Kwame Nkrumah serving as a president for a very long time. Just as at a point we were equally tired of having the ex-president Nana Addo Dankwa serving as a president for 8 years. And you see, what Ghanaians didn't know was that Kotoka was a long-term visionary leader. Why do I keep on mentioning Kotoka? Nkrumah was a long-term... Nkrumah was a long-term visionary leader. He needed years in order to achieve that. He needed years. And Nkrumah could not risk giving this mandate into the hands of Komlak Bedema or whosoever that wants to become a president, because he had wanted to achieve this before leaving the seat. That was what most Ghanaians didn't know. And someone also said Nkrumah was a very good leader for Africa, but a bad president, or but a bad leader for Ghana. I disagree with this because Nkrumah was very accountable, and he scrutinized his ministers and then the MPs very well. They were not able to steal. And because of that, because they didn't have room to steal, they hated Nkrumah for nothing. Because Nkrumah will not allow you to take money from the consolidated accounts. Or he will not allow the Minister of Foreign Affairs or the Finance Minister to embezzle funds into his own pocket. You will be accountable for it. So these were some of the reasons why people didn't like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you think this decision to change the name is a political decision, or, because ask yourself, have there been a lot of stakeholder engagement? I don't think we've done enough for that decision to be made. The NDC, the current government.
If as this may be a rhetorical question, what has been Kotoka's contribution to Ghana for his name to be on a monument? Kotoka hasn't done anything for this country, and his name does not deserve to be on our international airport. If anyone's name should be on the international airport, it should be Nkrumah. Kotoka died at that spot. That's why his name was there, and that's why his name is there. The very place you see Kotoka's you see his statue. That was the exact place he died, and he never contributed anything to Ghana, to the development of Ghana. He only became popular because he overthrew Nkrumah. And that's how come he made his name. He orchestrated a coup against Nkrumah. That's how come he became popular. So it's Kotoka's name on the airport because he overthrew Nkrumah. No, you see, and
But
the
has your
MPP
has
will
you
not
ha,
agree with us because they are haters of Nkrumah. They don't like Nkrumah because they were sabotaged by the CPP government. You see, the truth is that if you can't fight them, join them. The UGCC were not able to fight Nkrumah. The UGCC is currently the MPP today. They were not able to fight Nkrumah. And since they were not able to fight Nkrumah, they hated Nkrumah for nothing. And JB Dankwa was in prison. He died in prison. He was a UGCC member. And that same UGCC is today's MPP. So they will never, Nkrumah will never be in the good books of the MPP.
But has your government considered the phases this has to go through, the time, the cost, the quantum of rebranding it involves? Have they considered all these things? And is it not, a waste of money?
Yeah, not you necessarily, but then the MPP may say it will be a waste of money. If MPP is saying that it will be a waste of money, let the government bring out a budget, how much it will cost us to change the name of the Kotoka International Airport to a different name, and then let's compare it to the biggest manhole in the Accra Central, which they dubbed the National Cathedral, how much they spent over there. And the National Cathedral, their acclaimed National Cathedral, is not serving the country in any capacity. So let's compare these two budgets and let us see.
So are you trying to say, okay, they wasted it on this side, so we should also, are you trying to justify
We are not
that?
going to sow our money by rebranding the name of Kotoka International Airport to a more suitable name. We are going to spend money for the right purpose. We are not going to spend money. We are not going to waste money for the wrong purpose, and then it will not serve this country anything. The international airport is generating revenue. The biggest manhole in Africa and in the world is not serving this country any purpose. It's not generating any revenue.
But Kotoka's name has been on the airport for quite some time now. What damage has it caused to the government? I'm just,
it's not causing anything, any damage to the government. It is causing reputational damage to our country. Mr. Richmond, let me ask you, if I don't know, but almost everybody in the world knows Nkrumah, right? Everybody in the world knows Nkrumah. Then you sit on the plane and I'm gonna ask you, your airport is called Kotoka International Airport. What's the meaning of the name, and why was this name given to the airport? What are you going to tell that man? What are you going to tell that foreigner? Kotoka, he was the person who overthrew the first president of Ghana. He was the one who overthrew the founder of our nation. I mean, does it suit well? What has been what has been Kotoka's contribution to this country that you can justify that Kotoka, this is Kotoka's work, and this is the reason why his name is here. So this is a reputational damage to our country.
Okay, so that is why your government wants to change it.
It's not my government. It is no.
It is your government that is in power.
It is my government that is in power. But it is not my government that is changing it. It is a bill that has been sent to Parliament that the name should be changed.
So let's see. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
When it becomes an issue of Parliament, it becomes a national business. It's no more our government.
Okay. All right. Latif, you are far against the motion. Why so?
Oh, you see, I found it very heartbreaking that after 57 years, today we still have these conversations as to why the airport was renamed after General Kotoka. These conversations, I think we as citizens of the country, we've gone past the stage. We should be thinking of how to, gather money to go pay cocoa farmers, gather money to go buy cocoa that was stuck in the villages, and national issues. Today we're facing transportational issues within the cities. Inner city transportation has become a problem. I think government should rather focus and channel its, its energy to that sector. Look, today, I know it's a bill that's gone to Parliament and it has to be passed, but then we have other bills. For example, the LGBT bill that has been in Parliament for a very long time. Why don't we consider those bills? Those are more important to the citizens. Look, we are Ghanaians, and our customs and traditions do not go with, LGBT. I don't know why the government is trying to, ignore those bills and focus on renaming the airport, which is rather going to cost us as a country more. You see, the whole conversation, for me, I think, is to satisfy some political gain. Because I don't think it was part of the NDC's manifesto going into the 2024 election that if they had won power, they were to rename the airport after anybody. I don't know where all these conversations, are coming from. But I think that they're just trying to do this to satisfy some actors within the
But let me
NDC government.
chip in. If you say so, Kwejo Pon Nkrumah was interviewed and he claimed he
Yeah.
support the motion. What's your take on that?
So he said he supports, but he has not given reasons. Those are his personal reasons. And I don't think Kojo's reasons would supersede the nationalistic, reasons that we are all calling for. If probably you're going to take an amount of money to go, rename an airport. Meanwhile, we have teachers, the University of Ghana lecturers going on strike. We have Nation Training College lecturers being on strike for close to a month now. Why don't we channel those resources to go pay these lecturers so they go back to classrooms and lecture? We have nursing colleges not paid. NSS are not paid. INU, BENSON, we are not paid yet. So I don't know where the government is trying to channel its resources and energy to.
You are claiming that this is an unnecessary disruption, but
Of course it is.
they also feel it's inappropriate to honor a figure who played a central role in overthrowing a democratically elected government. You get what I mean? So some will say you are a coupist. You are supporting one.
No,
If
no,
I'm not harsh.
I'm never a supporter of, coup d'etat or military junta government. I believe in democracy, and we, as well as we, the New Patriotic Party, we all believe in democracy. Is it? Sorry, from day one, people are trying to change the narrative about Kotoka. General Kotoka was a hero. He was a hero at the time. He was a messiah. He had come to save people. You see, this is not the first, airport that has been named after, individuals who had been in revolution. When you go to South Africa, Rambo was named after one of their airports. Even Rambo was on the wanted list of UN. He was on the wanted list of UN. He was described as a terrorist.
Even Mandela was even on the wanted. Yeah.
Yes, and he was described as a terrorist, and that was never contributed to the fact that South Africa shouldn't name them after their airports. You see, let's get this very right. Let's dive into the circumstances at the 1960s as to why people were jubilating when Nkrumah was overthrown. Nkrumah became a dictator. Nkrumah was more or less like a devil to people as at 1960. You see, Nkrumah, people were, in prison, people were killed. Husbands couldn't find their wives couldn't find their husbands, children never saw their fathers, just because they criticized government. And you claim this to be democracy? What is a democracy? People should have freedom of speech. Look, during Nkrumah's time in 1960, there was nothing like freedom of speech. There was nothing like freedom of association. Ghana became a one-party state. All political parties were banned. The 1960 constitution was amended. In 1964, we had one-party state. The national flag was changed to the CPP national flag. The national anthem was changed. Ghana was under a one-party state since 1950s that we had parliamentary elections. We had one parliament. Even the oppositions in parliament ran away and left the parliament. The parliament was controlled by one majority parliament, which is a CPP. How then do you describe this as a democracy? Look, today we've been faced with conflict at the north. Do you know how it came by? It was Nkrumah. Chiefs who were not buying into Nkrumah's ideology were distilled. Let's look at the Achimabakwa state. Seo Foriata the first was distilled because he did not subject himself to some of the policies Nkrumah brought up. He was installed. And to an extent that CPP, pro-CPP chiefs saw, the new installment of chiefs. Look, so when Sel Farata was installed and was asked to go on exile from the Chebi, he was escorted by 20 policemen, 20 soldiers to Accra. Why? Did he kill somebody? Did he try to overthrow the government? No, that's because he was never subjecting himself to the CPP government. No, we see chiefs are not allowed to participate in politics. It was never, evidential or clear that Sel Farata was obvious into party, but he had his brother who was, JB Dankwa, who was a politician. And just because my brother is a politician and is a critic of your government, that doesn't mean that I am also, I'm fully into, politics. I am a chief, which is Sel Farata. But Nkrumah never took that into consideration. You see, Krobadu say, who was then the interior minister, had gone to see, I think, Prempeh the second and Foriata the first, that they should subject themselves to Nkrumah's will. Hadn't been that they were, Nkrumah would stool them. At the point, Prempeh the first had no option. Even, let me tell you something. The language of Prempeh the second, which is Ekutu's father, the former finance minister's father, who was a linguist by then to Prempeh the second, was asked to be given to Nkrumah to be prisoned because he was the brain behind, the National Liberation Movement, the then party in Ashanti. So you see, these are some of the reasons why at the time Nkrumah became unpopular. You see, Nkrumah is a great Africanist. He was well known to be the brainchild of trying to unite Africa. Well, he was a hero for Africa, but internally, Nkrumah wasn't doing great. Look, we people, you see, until the early 2000s, that the BBC had come to make some research and trying to make Nkrumah the millennium of the time. You see, Nkrumah was not that, 100%. He has his downs and he has his ups. We can't take it away. But until recently, people are trying to make it look as if Nkrumah is totally 100% clean, which is never true. Look, let's go to the north. Today we haven't, between the Kusas and the Mampusis, there's a huge conflict for close to 30 years at the northern sector, which is the Boku sector. Do you know how this conflict began? It was all about Nkrumah. Nkrumah destroyed the then Boku chief, who was then a pro-UP person, because he had believed some of his brothers and some of his family members were supporting the Northern People's Party. Sorry, not UP, but the Northern People's Party. Nkrumah had gone to overthrow him and unseat him, and had given the chieftaincy to someone who was never the chief by then, who was the Kusasi chief. That was how come all these Kusasi Mampusi conflicts came about.
Some are saying that your stand is motivated by hatred. The MPP stance on this issue is motivated by hatred towards Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
That is never true. If the MPP had hated Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, I don't think Akufo-Addo would have foreseen the renovation of the Kwame Nkrumah Museum. Look, when you go check the Kwame Nkrumah Museum, it's one of the best museums we have in Africa now. It has been modernized to the standard that anybody could come and see it. I will like the place. The environment is welcoming. Everything is very clean. Everything is very nice there. It has been elevated to a proper standard now. Okay. So do you think if having a president whose relative were part of the struggle within independence, and you know the rivalry between Seoforiata the first, who Akufo-Addo is a relative to, as JB Dankwa and the likes, who are relatives to Akufo-Addo, do you think their grandson or son today, if truly hated Nkrumah, renovated the Kwame Nkrumah, memorial site today? I don't think that will happen. I think this conversation of having Nkrumah as the all-time hero, that he has no errors in him, he's totally 100%, it's wrong. Look, history needs to be set straight, and we need to come into an understanding that yes, Nkrumah had played his role. Likewise, gradually, he had lost the fame, the like that people had for him. Look, people jubilated when Nkrumah was overthrown. You see the videos when his statue was, and people were throwing stones, people were jubilating, people were happy. So do you think if Nkrumah was that popular, Well, do you think Kotoka and the likes would be able to overthrow him that easily? No.
Yeah.
And remember, they never wanted a bloody coup. That is why they had made him to leave the country. For me, my take was that after the coup, they should have allowed him to participate. The next election. Probably, if he had come and lost, he would have become the minority leader in parliament by then. And I think moving forward, he would have prepared himself. And
But do you think if he had won, he would have spared those who did the coup?
No, I doubt if Nkrumah would have won the next election that brought Buzi into power. Probably you would have become the minority. By then we were going by the UK system. For me, that was the only problem I had with the coup makers back then. They should have allowed Buzi and Co should have allowed him participated in the election. 1956, after Nkrumah was overthrown, the second terminal, the terminal 2 of the airport was built. And that is why they had renamed Kotoka after him, after the airport, not just because Kotoka was killed at the airport. And Kotoka was by then the hero, the messiah, the Jesus at the time that has taken people from more or less like a day to an opening space where people could breathe. During Nkrumah's time, people couldn't breathe. Once you criticize the government, the next day you'll not be fined. So I think this is one of the reasons why
Latif is saying that during Nkrumah's time, people couldn't breathe. Nkrumah was kind of being autocratic towards his people. Now, we are going to have an open discussion, and this is the last segment, and then we'll wrap up for the day. Time is not on our side. Let's open up for a broader discussion. Benson, let me start from you. What do you say to those who argue that changing the name would erase history?
Changing the name of Kotoka International Airport
would erase history.
It's not
about coup d'etat.
No, coup d'etat is not a good thing. So if it is erasing a history that brought violence, a history that overthrew a democratic elected government, then this is not a history. It's not a good history. Yes, it should be a history we should learn in our schools, but it shouldn't be a history we should see around us, because it reminds us of the cries of people, the cries of parents, the cries of fathers and mothers. So this is a history, a reputational damaged history that is going to be erased on the name of Ghana. So it's not a good history. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you are saying we don't value coup d'etat?
No, we don't value coup d'etat.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Latif, what's your take on that?
Kindly come again with the question.
Some say that changing the name would erase history. What's your take on that? Do you support it or?
Of course. It's going to, erase history, and people are not going to learn. Not unlike our forebears, who were very, fortunate to have had, the basic education with history included. We, until senior high school, that you choose to do history, you wouldn't get to, appreciate the rich history and culture we have in Africa or Ghana per se. Taka was more of like, I say, he was more of like Moses at the time. So people should learn. You see, having Kotoka's name at the airports, and young people begin to ask and make research, it reflects that once you're a leader of a country, you shouldn't be an autocratic leader. You should be a selfless leader. You should lead the people, not just because you want to lead, but because you want to serve in the good interest of the people. And you shouldn't, be on the people to understand people shouldn't have the free of speech. Free of associates, and people shouldn't have the opportunity to relieve themselves. So that sends a signal that all leaders are coming, even before and after us, that all leaders should be very mindful with the kind of leadership, strategies they embrace to lead our country. So Kotoka's name would always ring a bell in everybody that comes to lead, in the ear of all leaders that come to lead this country. Look, if should one day you become a leader and you try to oppress the people will rise against you, or the country itself will rise against you. That's my take on it.
Okay. But to both of you, let me start from Benson. Benson, are you there? Benson?
Yeah, I'm here.
Don't you think there is a way to compromise, perhaps by adding a commemorative plaque or educational exhibit at the airport rather than changing the name itself?
Those things, if a museum should be built, it should be built for Kotoka in a different place.
Okay.
Just as we have Kwame Nkrumah Museum, okay? Something like that can be built for Kotoka. So that if, not only Kotoka, but the coup makers in Ghana. So the likes of Kotoka, General, and oh yes, the coup makers in Ghana. If we may be biased, we may
Mr.
be.
Benson,
I'm coming.
you just told us that. I'm
wait.
coming. You
Okay.
just told us that
We don't value.
you don't,
You see,
you don't
we
value
shouldn't.
coup. So
It
why
tells
don't
the
you
generation.
then?
No, let me come in. Latif, you said it tells the future generation. If you don't change the name,
Yes.
it tells the future generations what
Exactly.
and who we value.
Yes.
If we don't change the name.
Yes.
Now you are saying we should build.
Oh no, you are saying that. So you see, I am saying this based on the question you asked me. Okay.
Okay.
You
Maybe
are
we should
saying that-
compromise.
Yes, you are saying that why don't we give him a plug in addition to what we already have over there? Maybe a plug about how they call it, Nkrumah, right?
The story,
Yes.
what happened, yeah.
Exactly. And I said no. Having Nkrumah and Kotoka at the airport will not be a good match for us. But we are
Okay.
insisting that Kotoka's name should be taken from the airport. Probably
Okay.
we should go for Accra International Airport or Nkrumah International Airport. I am of the opinion that it should be given as Kwame Nkrumah International Airport. Because who has ever been greater than Nkrumah in the history of Ghana? No one. No one. So if we should
Okay.
compromise, if we should do the bidding of the Kotoka sympathizers, then we should have a museum for Kotoka. But in order for us not to be biased, let us bring all the coup makers we've ever had in this country together. The likes of Kotoka. I mean, so led by Kotoka, we will have a Frifa, we will have General Ankra, we will have General Akufu, General Fred Akufu, we will have Jerry John Rawlings and his group. So we should have those people in a particular museum. So I think we should have something like that for them. That is, we should compromise, and then we should also do the bidding of the sympathizers of Kotoka. But for the international airport, please, that name should be erased. And we don't want to see anything Kotoka over there.
Latif, how do you respond to that?
Please, the question again. I guess just
okay. As I was saying that, don't you think there's a way we can compromise? We maintain the name itself, but then we add a commemorative plaque or educational exhibition at the airport rather than, working on the name itself.
You see, for me, I am always of the view that, look, changing the name is not going to, generate more revenue to us as a country. So we should rather leave it that way and rather make the history. I'm much worried about the history behind it. Until I started reading much about Nkrumah and the likes and his opponent. I never understood the reason why the airport should have been named after someone who overthrew a democratic government. I never understood. Seriously, I never understood. Until recently, look, there's a whole lot we should do as a country. Look, we have a lot to do. Is it somewhere around 2023? Young people were calling that the Akufo-Addo government should be overthrown. And I asked a very close mentor of mine, and look, even though things were not going well, but this is what young people are saying. He told me, Latif, it's never good to experience coup. Never pray to experience a military government. And I asked him why. He said, look, you see, you could go out anytime at 12. Sometimes you come to my place, midnight, 2 a.m. and go home. You can't do that. And sometimes I just picture the situation. And he just told me, you see, you could take your phone, text on social media, do everything. Latif, you can't do that. I asked myself, imagine myself, not me, probably I'm known as NPP member, but those who try to play the neutral game, that would always write on X, write on Facebook. Do you think they'll survive? How many young people could survive? So the history, let's try to re-echo the history. Look, even though for me, I feel
as in having a balanced perspective, present a balanced perspective on the
let's have a balanced perspective. But if people are calling for a rename, but I think the renaming it to Accra International Airport isn't a good idea. We have somebody like Kofi Annan who has gone far. We could rename it after Kofi Annan if that's what they are calling for. We'll then try to have something replaced for General Kotoka. But then if the renaming shouldn't be considered, and let's leave it that way. It's about 54 years. What else again?
Okay.
You see, we need to correct the wrongs.
Benson, wrap up quickly.
Yes, we need to correct the wrongs. So with what you are saying, that why should we change the name Kotoka? We keep on amending our constitution. We realized that no, the constitution we have some inconsistencies in the constitution. The constitution was basically made for Jerry John Rawlings. It wasn't made for Kufuor, it wasn't made for Akufo, it wasn't made for Mahama. So the constitution was schemed in such a way that it could favor Jerry John Rawlings. And now, we are now in a modern Ghana. We've realized that no, there have been some inconsistencies in the constitution, and we keep on amending the constitution. Every government keeps on amending the constitution. Every year we keep on amending the constitution. So what would be wrong if we change, we rewrite the wrongs to right, and then we change the name of Kotoka to a different name? Then if you are of the opinion that we shouldn't change the name because of reasons known to you, then we should also not amend our constitution. If you side with me this
Mr.
way,
Richard,
then
you'd
fine.
have to give me one more opportunity again and I come in.
No, then if you side with me, fine. You also made a statement that there have been a lot of monuments which have been named by Nelson Mandela of South Africa. Nelson Mandela was never a military man. He was a lawyer. Nelson Mandela never took gun. Okay, Kotoka took gun.
But do you know?
Okay, Benson, let's Latif come in and then we'll wrap up.
Nelson Mandela was described by the UN as a terrorist.
You know that the UN would never stand.
I asked you a very simple question.
Listen to me. Yes,
so
I'm aware. I am aware. But the UN will never stand. You and I know that the UN would never stand with any African that tries to rise and defeats the whites. You should know this. You should know better, Latif. You should know better.
You see, I don't want us to dive into this conversation. This is going to be lengthy. When we dive into this perspective of what you're trying to bring. Look, the whites are their whites. Likewise, we blacks are blacks. Do you think if we blacks have the opportunity, would make the whites rise upon us? I'm asking you the very simple question. Do you think you make them rise upon us? See, and look, when we're speaking of UN, it's not about whites. UN consists of a lot of nations.
What is the majority?
Africa is part of UN.
Yes, Africa is part of UN. But what is the majority over there? What is the majority in UN? Aside Kofi Annan, who served as Secretary General of the UN, which African has been able to rise to that portfolio? If you bear with me, listen to me. Yes, it is true that UN comprises of both African and then the whites. But the truth is that the leadership of the UN, the majority of them is the whites. And the white would not allow Nelson Mandela to tarnish their own image. No, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Let Africa also describe Nelson Mandela. Nobody would ever describe Nelson Mandela as a terrorist to the apartheid law.
How would Nelson Mandela, how would Africa describe Yadema of Togo, the former president of Togo?
I am not privy to that information.
He ruled and his son succeeded him.
Yes,
he ruled and his son succeeded him.
Exactly. Yadema was a military man. You should not compare a military leader. See, Mr. Richmond,
our time is up.
I know that our time is up.
1 minute for everybody.
Thank you very much. Yes, 1 minute for everybody.
Okay, 1 minute. Benson, let's go.
Let me start with Nelson Mandela. 30 seconds. Nelson Mandela was a lawyer. Nelson Mandela was a diplomatic leader. Nelson Mandela never took a gun against the white. But Nelson Mandela was a terrorist to the apartheid law. I am done with Nelson Mandela. So if the UN is saying that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist, he was a terrorist to the apartheid law. Perry Yadema to Nkrumah, Yadema was never a diplomatic. He was never a diplomat. Yadema was a military leader. Nkrumah was a diplomat. He wasn't a military leader. He was a civilian. So please, Yadema should rule over 40 years with gun. But Nkrumah never.
Benson, your time.
Thank you very much.
You have,
thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's make this clear.
1 minute.
Before the overthrow of Nkrumah in the 60s, Nkrumah had become a dictator. Ghana had become a one-party state. So it's more, Nkrumah and Yadema are more of the same. Yadema was ruling for life.
Benson, it's done. We are done.
Yadema was ruling for life. Likewise, Nkrumah was ruling for life. Nkrumah party had taken off parliament. CPP was ruling parliament. All the opposition MPs had left parliament. They all ran away for their lives. PPP was the only majority in parliament. So what's the difference between a military government and a dictator? They're all the same. If Nkrumah believed in himself to be a democratic leader, he should have subjected himself to election. That's what we are calling
Benson,
for.
10 seconds. 10
Kotoka,
seconds.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see,
I said, no.
Latif
Sorry.
brother, Latif brother, Latif brother.
Latif, 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
So
my God.
Kotoka had come in as a messiah, as the savior, as the rescue person to rescue all Ghanaians. So his name should still remain at the
viewers,
airport.
this
Thank
brings
you
us
very
to
much.
the end
yeah,
of
Mr.
today's
Richmond, I
episode.
know
We've
this
heard
will bring
about
us to the end
the
of
historical
the show.
context
Mr.
for
Richmond.
and against. Yeah, no.
Mr. Richmond, no, I want to tell
this brings
you
us to
something.
the end of today's episode. We've heard about historical context, argument, and for against changing the name, and some thoughtful suggestions for compromise. Whether you are for or against, it's clear that this debate goes beyond an airport. It's about identity, memory, and the values we pass on. Thank you, Benson and Latif, for sharing your insights, and thanks to all our listeners for your time, sending your comments. Until next time, I'm Richmond Dadah, and this has been the Neutral Grounds Talk Show. Bye.